Hello everyone, Jai Hind. I'm Major Mohammed Ali Shah. Recently in the news, we heard a lot about one gentleman in Canada giving a speech in the Gurdwara, and on social media was ablaze that this gentleman has got pro Khalsan sentiments, he's anti Indian, and whatnot. And moreover, he incidentally happens to be, his roots happen to be from Manipur under the Kuki umbrella. We are all very perturbed about it. We are all very disturbed about it. I was very perturbed about it. I was very disturbed about it because you all know my affiliation and my love for the northeast part of India, particularly Manipur. So anyhow, I connected with Mr. Lien Gangte, and I there's certain things I wish to question him, or you can even I don't mind if you think that I am interrogating him as a former major, though I am no one in power or in authority, or I'm not in service. But yes, most certainly, I would like to ask him certain difficult questions. Anyhow, Lean, thank you very much for spending time. And even though with the fact that I may not be very happy with you for that matter, but still, you very brave of you. You chose to come online, and you consented to my request. So I thank you for that.
Major Ali, yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity, to come and share my side of the story. And, as you mentioned, this controversy kind of came out of nowhere as far as what I was concerned. And as you probably already know, but for the sake of the viewers that might not be completely aware, my name is Lien Gangte, and I am the Canada chapter chair of NAMTA, which is the North American Manipur Tribal Association. Um, and, as alluded before, I was born in Imphal, Manipur, and right now I am in Canada. And once again, I very much appreciate the work you do, and the kind of journalism, the independent journalism that you bring, and especially highlighting on Manipur specifically. So I really commend you, not as somebody who's biased, but somebody who's willing to listen to different sides of the arguments and the stories, and most importantly, kind of recognizing the humanity of uh, whether you're from one side of the conflict or the other, but recognizing the beauty, the delicateness of our shared humanity. And that's one thing I really appreciate from what you do on your channel. So yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Lin. You've been very kind and very magnanimous to say that. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate that. But Lynn, tell me one thing. First, tell us about your organization. About you are heading this organization, which you just mentioned about the about in Canada. On You are heading the tribal organization of Manipur in Canada, if I'm not mistaken. And just tell us a bit about this organization.
Yeah, so NAMTA, we're just a few days younger than this current conflict that started in May, or May 3rd of this year. So NAMTA, both in the U.S. and the Canadian, diaspora of the people from the Kukizomi community in Manipur, we've kind of come together and formed this civil society organization to respond to the crisis in Manipur, and in the best way, kind of support uh, the relief efforts in terms of our advocacy work, and to basically bring attention and highlight the plight of the suffering of our people. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we were set up to do. So we're very focused on the human rights elements of our people, and we've been very, very grateful, and we've been very overwhelmed with the outpouring of support from various diaspora communities, especially Indian diaspora communities, whether it's the Indian Christian organizations, whether it's the Hindu organizations, Muslim organizations, from the Sikh community as well. So we're basically a very simple grassroots human rights organization that has been kind of advocating for a resolution of the huge humanitarian crisis, and I mean, to us it's the ethnic cleansing of the Kuki Zomis from the Imphal Valley, and an ongoing attack on the very existence of our people. So that's what we were kind of organized in response to. And by saying that, I think it's also important for me to establish from the very beginning that, having said that, um, you know, I don't claim to represent the voice of the Kuki Zomis, the other, like the Zo ethnic tribes in Manipur, because obviously it should be quite clear that we're we're just a diaspora organization that only exists because we love and care about our people. We love and care about what happens in India, because this is the country that I was born in. This is the country that I love. And any question on that, I think it's very hurtful. But let me leave it at that. And so please continue on. I hope I didn't take too long to answer that question.
No, no, perfectly fine, perfectly fine. I want to listen to you, and I'm sure my audience. I'm doing this because I want my audience to listen to you as well. You mentioned about you work for human rights, if I'm not mistaken, right? And your organization works for human rights. You mentioned human rights, not cookie rights. So human rights would also cover the lives, the rights of Maites, of Nagas who are not affected, but human rights of soldiers. So what do you have to say for that? I hope you are covering that as well.
See, Major, like whenever there's a loss of human life, I think as any human, decent humans, like I think that's always a sad tragedy. So, like, whether it's the most recent story that surfaced with the young man and woman, who were reportedly, killed, in instances like that, like, I mean, my heart breaks, whether it's for the like any loss of life on the Métis side or on the Kuki-Zomi side, right? But at the same time, like I think it's also really I think it's an unfair ask to put the burden of like the entirety of a situation, of any situation on one particular person or one particular organization, right? Because my job, um, in terms of representing my people in a limited capacity, is to advocate for my people, right? Like, so for example, like when I say that, and I'm not trying to uh, uh, kind of not take any responsibility for um, um, whatever inaction that, like, maybe some people are insinuating that. But what I'm trying to say is, um, I am focused on the suffering of my people, because they have been on the receiving end of this conflict, where we don't have the basic amenities, the basic services that the state is required to provide in a rigorous democracy, right? So, um, even though I feel the pain and the sadness, I also think it's unfair for me to try and represent both sides of like a conflict. To me, that's the job of the government and the leadership in the state machinery. That's what they should be doing, which we're saying is completely opposite. They've taken sides. That is the issue. The issue is the failure of governance. It's not Lien Gangte is not speaking about this or that, and or he's only speaking about this or that. The issue is I'm not the issue here. I'm nobody. The issue that my people are facing is much much greater and graver than anything that I'm personally facing myself. So
Right. I tend to agree with you slightly there. Yes. What I initiated this conversation by saying that I may not be happy with you. Why? It's a very strong remark. And why I made that remark, people must be wondering, is because, I don't know. I mean, how far it's true. We get to hear a lot of stories on social media, but I do not tend to go by and believing news unless I hear it straight from the horse's mouth. I would like to hear from you. In fact, there was some post of yours. How true is this that you went and gave a speech in Canada in a gurdwara which was pro Khalistan, and you have been perceived as somebody who is pro Khalistan, and that's something I will not accept, because I think anyone who works against the interest of our sovereignty, integrity of our nation, against the progress of a nation, should not be supported. That's what I feel. So tell me, what, according to you, first answer this question first. What, according to you, is patriotism?
um, Major, so thank you for asking that question, and I'm sure that's a question that's on the minds of many people listening to the show. And so I think all I have to start with, first of all, you ask about patriotism, and to me, it's love of country, love of nation, right? So, and as far as that goes, there is not a moment that goes by where that love is replaced by anything other than renewed love. So, first of all, I think it's a sign of the times that we live in that I have to come and prove my patriotism or my allegiances over and over again. And so I think in that sense, I don't know if that's the answer you are looking for, but I think to me, judge me by my actions, and if you look at that, what have we asked? We have asked for the basic rights as humans, as Indian citizens, that has been denied to my people. And as you yourself said in one of your other interviews, that like I don't want to even count how long it has been since this conflict started, and my people have been denied their basic rights from the government that's supposed to guarantee those constitutionally guaranteed rights and their privileges in the country. So, like I said before, um, to me, a gurudwara is a holy place of worship. This particular one that is in question is, in fact, named after Guru Nanak Sahib. So, when I'm invited to go and speak there, I would have done the same thing if I was invited to a Hindu temple or a Muslim mosque or a Christian church or any other, like whether it be a religious organization or not. That is not um, my concern. My concern is to go and speak about the plight of my people, you know, to other human beings. Because and I think this is a very dangerous idea to demonize and dehumanize our Sikh brothers and sisters. That like if anybody is vocal in their criticism about whatever issues um, they're arguing for, then you automatically label them one way or the other. And and as far as the question of Khalistan is concerned, That has nothing to do with me or Namta. Uh, we we go there, or I went there to talk to the diaspora Sikh community. And if that has been characterized as being pro Khalistani, that is somebody else's job. Like my job is very clear. And if you listen to the entirety of my speech, I'm very, very focused on the issue that I care about, which is the crisis in Manipur and its peaceful resolution for everybody involved.
So you have clearly brought out that you are not pro Khalistan. Am I understanding it correct?
Major, like, see the you see the, when you ask me a question like that, it's to me it's almost like you're asking me to take a stance on an issue that I know very little about. So whether if you ask me a question of whether I'm pro Khalistan or not, it's almost like a question that it's the best example I can think of. It's and I'm not trying to belittle the seriousness of this question. So please forgive me if my response may sound maybe not exactly what people want to hear. But it's kind of like asking like a man who's married to a wife, like have you stopped beating your wife? There's no right answer to that. So either way you say, you try to answer that, you're in a trap. So all I would say is my issue is the suffering of my people in Manipur, and I want to see that suffering come to an end. The violations of our basic human rights that need to be, first of all stopped, and all the perpetrators. And when I say perpetrators, I'm saying all perpetrators have to be brought to justice, and that is my concern. And um, on any other issue, it is not my issue, and I have no reason nor any desire to, kind of speak on something that I'm not even qualified to speak.
I my apologies to you, but we do not. Many people may not have heard your speech. I haven't heard your speeches yet. I'm confessing to you, right? I don't know what you spoke, and but we many people we form our opinions based on what someone has said or someone wrote or someone
Right.
mentioned, and so that so and so has spoken against the country apparently. So and so is pro Khalistan or whatever. And I totally buy your point over there that okay, you went to a religious place of worship, and with all of respect to the Sikh community, wherever. I think there's, and I personally feel that's my opinion, and I'm sure it's the opinion of many people that a lot of Sikh community, even in Canada, do not support the Khalsa movement. They are very sensible. They are very loyal, and the Indians, especially, and in India, I don't know a single Sikh who would support the Khalsa movement for that matter. I've played the role of a Sikh in a film where I did to do my research. I had to grow my hair, my beard for 2.5 years, then to tie a 6 meter turban. I gave up smoking that time. I spent ample time in a gurdwara. I've completed reading the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji after and following all the customs. In fact, so I know Sikhism preaches and teaches a lot of peace. Is a very very all religions talk the same. In fact, I just want to. I'm interested in knowing this for a fact that do you know enough about the Khalistan movement? Do you support them or you don't? Yes or no?
See, again, Major, like on a on a on an issue that I know very little about myself, like it's not something that I'm going to comment on a yes or no basis. Because like I said, the basic understanding that I have of the country that I originated from, and the country that I still have very, very strong ties to, which is India. Criticizing the situation that's going on in that country, or the response of the authorities, right, or the current regime in the country does not equate to being anti-India. So in that sense, like if you listen to the entirety of my speech, my criticism is on what the response has been, right? So in that sense, my criticism is no harsher or not very different from what other critics of the government in India are saying right now. In a lot of ways, I would consider it even milder than what a lot of the rhetoric that's happening within the country itself, right? So this whole question of like anti-India and like wanting to malign India, no, that is completely like the wrong perspective to have, because as we all know, and as we all are so proud to call India the world's largest democracy, you know, we have to, that is not something you can just go around claiming, right? Like you have to live up to the promise of what that actually means. And in that sense, you know, like Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, he is the most important leader, national leader, from independence and the constitution, the establishment of the constitution, and everything. For, I mean, obviously for everybody, but especially for the Dalit community and Adivasis, and like the tribals of Manipur. We are Adivasis just like anybody else in mainland India, you know. And the reason why I bring that up is we are very, very strong. Even though we're a diaspora organization, we are a very, very strong constitutionalist. We believe in the Constitution of India. We believe in the promises that were enshrined in the Constitution of India. And in fact, a lot of what has been demanded by various groups from the Kuki side has always been, you know, the fulfillment of the promises that were made us in the Constitution of India. So, you know, if I'm, you know, urging the current dispensation to fulfill the constitutional guarantees that was promised our people, you label me anti-India, I completely reject that. You know, nobody holds the Constitution of India more dear than the Dalits and Adivasi community, the marginalized communities in India. You know, that is what I cherish. That is what is precious to me. You know, so I totally reject this idea that because of criticism of the current dispensation, that automatically should translate to being anti-India.
Well, that is that's their lookout, the current dispensation or whatever. I would like to know what is your idea about India and your opinion about India. I mean, so what I told, I don't know how far it's true or not. Let me ask you directly here, and let me ask you, what is your idea about India? Do you like India?
Of course, I mean, there's, I mean, that. Uh, See, in a way, Major, maybe you might sense some reluctance on my part to even say that, because it's almost like I have to come and say, you know, I'm a human being. I'm a human being. You know, why do I have to say that? You know, and this is the country of my birth. This is the country that you know, taught me the idea of unity and diversity. You know, in growing up in India, like. Um, in boarding school, like we used to end our every evening singing "Sare Jahan Se Acha," you know. And so the fact that I even have to, you know, regurgitate all these experiences from my life, it's kind of, I feel a little bit awkward,
I'm so
and
happy to
like
hear that.
it feels a little strange, that I have to prove uh, like my basic humanity and like my basic love for the country of my birth, and it's I don't know. And on that question, I'd also like to just kind of interject with one of my other plans before this crisis broke out, where my mother, who is buried in our family property in Imphal right now, which you know um, just for the sake of people who might not be aware of, my own family home on May 4th was attacked in broad daylight, set on fire. All the belongings that were there, my eldest brother's family and my father, uh, who himself is an ex IPS officer. He's the second senior most IPS officer in Manipur. Uh,
Wow. What's your
he,
father's name?
Mr. P. Gangte. Mr.
Oh,
P.
of course.
Gangte.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and
he's a legend. Yeah.
well, thank you. And not only that, before he became an IPS officer, he was also,
You are Mr. P. Gangde's son.
yes, I am. Yes, I am.
He was
And
in the. If I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong. Was he in the army before he joined the IPS?
yes, indeed. And he was part of the Fourth Third Gurkha Rifles,
I'm
and
aware.
and he volunteered to go to the front lines in the 1965 Indo-Pak War, and
Correct. I'm aware.
and he's also on the record, like he's, I mean, and I've mentioned this in several other social media platforms and different things as well, that like he had taken on a reconnaissance um, you know um, and gone behind enemy lines during the war to provide intelligence to kind of um, you know um, give feedback to the Indian side. So and I'm not saying this to somehow create some kind of like a I'm not begging for anybody's sympathy. I'm just stating the facts and put it on the record, saying that we have a long line of uh, people who have shed blood for this country, and I'm not going to apologize or be cowered by anybody, mostly anonymous accounts that are going to say things left and right without actually even finding out the basic context. Like our ancestors, the Kuki Zomis, in the history of Manipur, we were the ones who fought the British for 2 years, from 1917 to 1919, and using guerrilla warfare tactics, we were able to keep them at bay for that long of a time. And even with the history of the INA, with Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, I'm sure you're quite well aware of that most of the pensioners who have kind of that history, that connection with the freedom struggle, there a lot of them are hugely from the Kukizomi community. So that is the history of our people. And when our patriotism or our sense of loyalty, so to speak, is questioned, it's very hurtful that you have to bring these things up over and over again, and almost like beg for people's understanding, and for and especially from people who might never have contributed in that sense. And I'm not trying to belittle anybody's um, contributions themselves, but it hurts. It hurts. um, but anyway, I apologize. I don't know if
And
that's
I no no I apologize to you. In fact, I think it was rather a silly question because that's the common question which was going on social media, and that's the reason I started my my I'll be very very honest. My perception about you, slowly and gradually, it is not what I opened my conversation with. That I told you I was very blunt and I was very blatant and I was very upfront in telling you that I wasn't too happy with you initially, and not because you are Mr. P. Kangte's son. You are from a very, very patriotic family. Your family has contributed a lot for the nation building, in fact. And it's I rather I'm very embarrassed and it's very unfair to to question your patriotism or your liking towards India. Most certainly, it goes without saying. But it was a question which, not just in my mind, but it was, I'm sure, a lot of people would have been having the same question when, without knowing the reality, when they would have seen you speaking at the Gurdwara, and they must have thought that you are there to support the Khalistan movement. But I begin to understand that you went there for humanity, as you are saying. You went there as a religious place of worship to show your respect. You don't know much about Khalistan movement. That's what I'm beginning to understand. But do convey my regards to your father. I mean, most certainly tell him from another soldier to a senior veteran. I would also like to ask you one more thing. The American ambassador a couple of months back, he had offered support for India. It was discussed in the European Parliament, the Manipur issue, and I wasn't too happy about that myself. I spoke on national television. I said, okay, it's an internal matter, and the very fact. So it was spoken on the UN. In fact, I interviewed Florence, in fact, who had spoken at the
Right.
UN, and I asked her that how come you got so much of time and the other gentlemen did not get much time. I cleared certain doubts over there. So now, do you think or do you feel it is fair because it's an internal matter, right? So do you think it's and or feel or fair it is to discuss about what's happening in our homes outside our home?
Yeah, Major, that's a very good question, and thanks for kind of laying the groundwork, for that question itself. And it's indeed a very sad and embarrassing day when a foreign diplomat has to comment on an internal matter, quote unquote, an internal matter of a country, and let alone a country like India with its rising global stature. My my comment on that is that is the responsibility again of the current dispensation to make sure that things don't go so out of hand that uh, diplomats have to start commenting on the situation. And this, I'm not saying anything new that I've not said in public before. Whether uh, it is the response of the government or the the policy of maintaining silence and ignoring the issue and pretending like the issue does not exist, these are the root causes, like, of why these reactions happen, right? And there's nothing more that I would wish than to go back to my routine life. And like I was saying just earlier on, my mother's grave is still in Imphal, and like that has kind of become inaccessible to my family. My whole family has been dispossessed. My father, that we just talked about, in his late 80s, like, he is homeless right now. He's completely cut off from what he loved. And you know before this whole thing erupted, the violence, we had planned to have a family reunion this year in Imphal and have a little um, you know uh, celebration of life for my mother, because she had passed away during the height of the COVID Delta wave, and we never had a chance to properly conduct our traditional final rites for her. So when you talk about love for India and all the criticisms, like what you were saying, that, or not necessarily criticisms, but comments from external sources, all these things get tied back to the response or the inaction of the current dispensation. And in simplistic terms, think of it this way. Whenever you have a family and, like, siblings are fighting over something, you expect the parents to take control and enforce some sense of justice and quieten the situation now. So exaggerate that situation to if the siblings are trying to take each other's lives and the parents not doing anything. Can you blame the child from reaching out to nanaji or dadiji or dadaji who may be living next door? Like, if mama and papa were doing their jobs, there is no need. And I'm not trying to oversimplify the situation, but I think that's something that people can understand. If the people who were supposed to take care of the situation did that, first of all, we wouldn't be in this situation, and you would have no comments from any external sources because there's nothing to talk about, right? So we've let this wound fester and fester and fester, and you can't blame the people who are victims of this violence, this atrocity, to say, okay, while you're drowning, don't call for help. Arey, I mean, I'm drowning. I'll call for help. जो भी मेरा मदद कर सके, मैं चिल्लाऊंगा. Anyway, thank you. Thank you.
Right. No, you are making sense to me. In fact, Len, in fact, uh, I, I'll be very, very honest. I had a very different impression about you. I'll be very, very honest with you. Okay, if I have to confess, and I'm glad that I came in this conversation with you. It helped me clear a lot of uh, misconceptions. Now, there was a lot of what do I say, social media mongering, I would say, that how Kukizo is supporting the Khalistan movement, which I see. You speak about the Maites, they're very close to my heart. You speak about the Kukis, they are very close to my heart. You speak about the Nagas, they're very close to my heart. You speak about any community from the northeast part of India. You speak about the Chakmas of Mizoram, you speak about the Silos, you speak about the Apatami tribe of Arunachal Pradesh, you speak about the other tribes of Arunachal Pradesh, you speak about the Garos, Khasis, Jaitas of Meghalaya, of Shillong, you speak about the Aodang, Ami, Chang, Chagang, Semma, Lotha, Konyak, Rengma, you talk about any tribe, any community, any village. I have deep attachments and one of my best memories. The Dev Burman from Tripura, anyone, be it from Assam. Now, the very fact when it's not because it was Kuki tribe, it could have been anyone. I was pained when I got to know, when I got forward, saying that the Kuki tribe was apparently supporting Khalistan. What I don't think, I mean, that was true, firstly. So, what do you have to say for that?
You know, again, okay. Let me not appear, because I think I've learned some the importance of appearances as well. But um, first of all, like I said, majority, like, who are we? We are just not even like able to get the basic attention um, of our own governments to fulfill their basic responsibility towards us, right? And the question of like whether the Kukizomis support Khalistan or not, to me, and I'm not seeing this as an like attack or as a insult towards you, but it's such a preposterous question because first of all, it was I who went there, and in my capacity as uh, like a like a Namta representative, and like I said at the very beginning, I don't claim to represent the entirety of the society. We're a diaspora organization. We're a non-profit diaspora organization that's focused on human rights issues and human rights violations of our people, and to bring attention of the suffering of our people at the global stage. Whether it is in Canada or the US, that is our goal. So any question coming back to whether we have any support for this group or that group, like, then, like, why stop there? Like, just bring about any sort of group around the world that people might want to disassociate and distance themselves from, and like ask us questions about, like, do you support this, do you support that? Like, it to me, it's kind of taking away, it's a distraction from the real issue that we should be talking about, which is the suffering of people in Manipur. And even, I'm sure you're even more up to date about what's happening now. Even as we speak right now, there's violence going on in Imphal Valley within the city, and that, my understanding right now, doesn't have like much to do with, like, the Kuki Meitei fight right now. So there's the internal turmoil going on within the valley itself, and that's also very heartbreaking, because at the end of the day, um, you know violence on any side does not bode well for anybody. And like I said, this is um, a crisis that's challenging our humanity. This is one of the first conflicts that in my memory, because, like, and you're very experienced in during your service as an army officer, and you know as well as I do, maybe better, that Manipur had always had its share of violence. Even though we all love to claim to be peace loving and like wonderful, generous people. The fact is, like, we've had our own share of violence, but the radicalization that has taken place in this conflict, you're seeing people completely uh, not recognizing the humanity of the other side. And when I say that, I specifically mean like the all the derogatory terms that have been used against our people, whether it's like illegals, narco terrorists, poppy cultivators, and, like, those things. It makes it very, very hard to kickstart the process of reconciliation and to bring about lasting peace. And so, to me,
Just the
those
way,
are
just,
the
just the
key
way
issues.
after the parading video became viral, the people who were saying rape is Maite, which is very unfair. I felt very, very unfair to paint any community with the same brush.
Major, like, if you look at any of our, like, press releases, or even whether it's my own um, personal social media or anything, we never wholesale dismiss or demonize any group like that.
So
And
you agree with me when I say don't paint any community with the same brush. Be it any
absolutely,
community. Yeah.
absolutely, no, in no uncertain terms, absolutely, I 100% agree with that. Pointing out specific instances of atrocity and specific instances. And having said that, I'm not going to shy away from saying, when our two sisters were paraded naked and humiliated beyond belief, who the perpetrators are. Like, I'm not going to shy away from saying that. But at the same time, like, I also reject the notion that, like, because of the the actions of those people who were involved in that incident, I'm also not taking the leap to brand the whole community as such. And like you said, um, you have a soft spot in your heart for all the different groups in the Northeast. Like, even in my family, like, our house was in the middle of a Meitei neighborhood, right? Like, so unlike most um, are like the Kukizo tribal families in in the Imphal Valley, we were actually right in the middle of a Meitei neighborhood. right? Like my sister-in-law is Meitei, so we're like very tightly integrated into the society, so um if somebody says like, I'm vilifying, or I'm kind of painting the entirety of the Métis community with the same brush as those who are instigating and perpetrating these violent offenses, no, they're completely, speaking untruth. There's no basis to be saying that.
You're right. I'm glad to hear your views. I'm so. Tell me one thing: has it affected your relationship with your sister-in-law? This entire conflict.
Absolutely not. Like she is if not, um, she is now the grand matriarch of our family after the passing of our mother. So I mean, see, that's why Major, like when again, please don't feel like I'm attacking the question itself, because it's, I think, even though it sounds preposterous to me, those are things that, because not every family might be the same, but that's why I think I'm like, part of me thinks that's a ridiculous question, but then I also feel like, okay, I have to put that on the record, because you know everybody may not have that same perspective and idea, and um, like we've gone too far from giving people the benefit of the doubt and kind of dwelling more on the positive issues, or the positive perspectives, but we're just kind of, um, wherever there is a little bit of a lack of clarity, people are too quick in jumping in and putting a negative spin to everything they see, and so that's, I think that's why I really appreciate what you're doing on your channel in terms of trying to highlight on the broader humanity aspects, and to kind of be able to dialogue like rational, reasonable people, you know so thank you.
That's very kind of you, Lian. That's very, very kind of you to say that. And I'm so glad that we both had our apprehensions. We both, from my side and from your side, before this conversation. And I'm so glad that we came on this conversation. And I'm so glad it required courage, I would say, for both of us, in fact, to actually speak to each other, because we had different perceptions, perhaps. And I'm glad when you communicate, when you have a dialogue, a lot gets cleared. So I think dialogue is the right way to come forward, and I would prove the point over here by saying that okay, but I have a last question for you. In fact, before I let you
Yes,
go, and thank
yes,
you, you've been
please,
very generous with your time. But I'll ask you a last question. What do
please.
you think, according to you, could be the way forward to bring peace in a beautiful state like Manipur with beautiful people over there?
Major, that's it's I mean, I can give you a standard answer, but honestly, in practical terms, it's a very tricky question. And to me, like without the return of a basic recognition of each other's humanity, it's very hard to kickstart the process. And it also, the notion of peace itself in that question, I think it's important to kind of talk about what we mean by that. By peace, if you mean just the absence of violence, that you can do like fairly easily. Like the Indian armed forces have enough people on the payroll. You can pump in, a few more tens of thousands of soldiers, and then you can have peace at gunpoint. But if that's the kind of peace you're referring to, then like I'm not sure what the value of that kind of peace is. But if you mean peace in a more deeper, truer sense, you have to start with the process of trying to address the issues of justice, issues of reconciliation, right? And um, not to sound too preachy, but like looking at the precedents in South Africa, and even though there might be many things to critique, even in that process, like there's a huge um, um, a huge lesson that we need to learn. And I'm sorry, I'm just kind of, it's completely escaping my name. The A very wise elder from the Angami community in Nagaland. Um, ah, I'm sorry.
Akonio, Akonio, Keze.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just kind of escaping me. So
No, I speak fluent Nangamese, by the way. I speak Angami as well.
wonderful,
I
wonderful.
celebrate Sekreni. Sekreni is the Angami
Right,
festival.
right.
I celebrate Sekreni every year, even when I'm in Delhi.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, so
So
you
yeah, I
can
just
refer
wanted to
to me.
mention, yeah, because I think I believe he was interviewed a while back, and he had mentioned a very similar approach. Where we have to kind of own up to the crimes that each side has committed against the other. So, and I know that's probably asking a lot, because right now, at least on our side, we're not even able to go and claim our dead bodies from like the makeshift morgues, and to give our dead the proper burial. So it's a very complicated question, but I think most of the people from my side will insist on the separate administration being the only solution, and I don't differ from that. Just to be clear from everybody, and in the sense that as a diaspora community, we support whatever people on the ground are calling for. We are there as a resource for our people, but nothing more than that. And so uh, but in my mind, this is more of a personal opinion, is before we recognize the humanity of each other and stop calling uh, people names, and stop the process of demonization and dehumanization of the other. I think that's the only way forward. Before we start entering into some sort of a dialogue like that, I don't really see how how we can proceed from here.
Right. Then, the Maida Pai Bais of Manipur, the Maite mothers, the Manipuri mothers from the Maite community, they, after 2004, the allegedly Burma Devi rape case, they had taken a movement on against the Armed Forces Special Power Act. And, I being from the Armed Forces myself, in 2004, it happened 2005. I was there as a young captain present on the soil of Manipur. And let me tell you my personal experience with them. They were very sweet to me, and they were very, very cooperative with me, and I never faced any trouble with them, in fact. Personally, I'm telling you, I don't know about, I can't say for anybody else, I can't talk for anybody else, but I can talk about myself. And I found when this ethnic violence broke out, their community, the entire Mairap IB, who is a social organization, they do a lot of good work as well. They were demonized, and I felt it was very unfair as well. So I decided to interview a Mairap IB, a lady, my sister. I would call her my sister now, and Sangeeta, and I spoke to Sangeeta ji, and and I learned so many things, and and I had my viewers message me, and they say that after they heard her, a community which was demonized, their perception changed. They said, "नहीं ऐसा भी है." It's like this one. Oh, okay. Similarly, I'm telling you, Leon, that after speaking with you, after understanding you, after being in this conversation with you, I have got a fair amount of clarity, and I like educating myself over and over again for nothing else, pure unconditional love for the northeast states of India. And I truly wish you all the best, and I really hope that you carry the spirit and the love for India alive wherever you go, and India should feel proud of its sons of soil outside the country and everywhere. And before we go, Leon, any last message would you like to throw out? Though you have given quite a lot of message, and I truly appreciate that. And I'm giving the last word to you. Yeah.
Major Ali, thank you so much again, and I wouldn't take up too much of your time. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate this open dialogue, and I think this is what we desperately need, not only in the broader global and national context, but also specifically on this particular issue, where you know this whole demonizing the opponent. This, if we want a return to normalcy and a return to reconciliation and some kind of peace returning in our little part of the world, I think we need to be more open-minded. We need to, if there are things that you don't understand, ask questions. And that's why I really appreciate, once again, at the expense of or at the risk of repeating myself, I appreciate your effort in keeping your platform open to dialogue and giving people the opportunity to clarify their positions. And you know hope you know we decide to give peace a chance. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Leon. Take care.
All right, you too. Thank you.
And last message I would like to convey to everyone listening. See, dialogue is the only way forward. When you speak, when you sit across the table and you have a discussion, we didn't yell at each other. Though I must confess, we weren't happy with each other in the beginning of this conversation. Now, almost about an hour. Now we have come. So, a dialogue is always take this as a moral lesson. Be it anywhere in this universe, बात से ही तो बात निकलती है दोस्तों. You
हाँ
speak.
जी.
Thank you.
पक्की बात, पक्की बात.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Lian. Jai
Thank
Hind.
you.